I was sitting in the doctor's waiting room when my phone rang. It was my only daughter, Angela. Her voice was unsettlingly calm, almost brittle, as she announced, "Mom, we're going on a trip to Europe tomorrow. I've already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." Then, she simply hung up. 45 years of nurturing her, sacrificing everything, only to be cast aside like refuse. Yet, I inhaled deeply, and a faint smile touched my lips. There was a crucial detail my dear daughter was unaware of. My name is Antonia Brooks. I am 71 years old. Until that moment, I believed I knew my daughter. I had been a widow for 6 months. My husband, Robert, had passed away from a heart attack over breakfast, just as we had done every morning for 4 decades. That morning, he poured my coffee, added cream, and toasted my bread. As always, he kissed my forehead and whispered, "Good morning, my love." Those were his last words. After his death, Angela had, or so I thought, become a more constant presence in my life. She visited 3 times a week, assisted with funeral arrangements, and even accompanied me to the grocery store. She'd suggested a general checkup, saying with that saccharine smile I mistook for affection, "Mom, you need to take better care of yourself now that you're alone." Now, I understood that smile was for convenience. The beach house had been our sanctuary for years. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15, through sheer grit and countless sacrifices. Every summer, we'd retreat there, forging memories, celebrating birthdays and Christmases. Angela brought boyfriends, then her husband, Edward. I cooked, cleaned, and did laundry for everyone. It was our cherished family tradition. I never imagined she'd view it as mere currency. And the car, that venerable Ford pickup truck, Robert cherished it like a child. He washed it every Sunday, meticulously changed the oil, and always parked it beneath the tree's shade. Angela knew its profound significance to me. It was the last tangible piece of him I had left. His scent still lingered on the worn seats. When she disconnected, I remained on that unforgiving green plastic chair, surrounded by strangers. For the first time in months, no tears came. A strange calm settled within me, a tranquility I hadn't known since Robert's death. Because in that moment, I recalled something I had entirely forgotten. 3 days before he died, Robert had handed me a manila envelope. "Antonia," he'd said, "put this in your dresser drawer. If anything happens to me, open it after a while, but only when you feel ready." I tucked it away without much thought, and the crushing grief and endless arrangements after his funeral had simply erased it from my mind. But there it was, waiting for me at home. The nurse called my name. The doctor examined me, declared me in good health for my age, advising only more rest and better eating. I nodded, feigning attention, but my thoughts were miles away. I was consumed by that envelope, by the chilling indifference in Angela's voice, and the certainty that Edward was the architect of it all. He had always seen me as an inconvenience. I left the office and walked slowly towards the bus stop. My car was gone, according to Angela. Yet, as I waited, I couldn't suppress a smile. There was a peculiar poetry to this turn of events. My daughter believed she had stripped me bare. But what she didn't know was that Robert, my clever Robert, had always been a man who planned ahead. The bus arrived, and I settled by the window, watching the city pass by. Houses, shops, people rushing, each with their own dramas, their own secrets. I, too, held a secret, and I was about to uncover it. Upon reaching home, I went directly to my bedroom. Opening the dresser drawer, I found the manila envelope precisely where I'd left it. My hands trembled slightly as I picked it up, feeling the bulk of documents inside. Robert had written my name on the front in his elegant hand. I sat on the bed we'd shared for so many years, taking a deep breath. Dusk was falling, filling the house with familiar shadows that no longer held dread. Slowly, I opened the envelope, like unwrapping a momentous gift. What I discovered within would change everything. What I found in that envelope left me breathless. Inside were legal documents, property deeds, bank certificates, and a handwritten letter from Robert. Tears blurred my vision as I read his familiar script. "My dearest Antonia," it began, "if you are reading this, it means I am no longer with you. Forgive me for not revealing everything while I was alive, but I wish to shield you from worries. Over the years, I invested our savings in various properties and businesses. We own more than just the beach house. We have 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Angela and Edward reside. We also hold shares in 3 companies worth more than you can possibly imagine. You are wealthy, my love. You always were, but now it is official. My hands shook as I sifted through the documents. There were deeds for houses in diverse city neighborhoods, a downtown condo, a small coastal motel, and indeed, the 20-story apartment building where my daughter lived. Robert had been its silent owner for a decade, having placed everything under the name of a company I knew nothing about. And according to the papers, I was the sole heir to that company. There were also bank statements for accounts I never knew existed, with figures that seemed unreal. Robert had been a bus driver for 40 years, but he had also been an exceptionally astute investor. Every penny we saved, every sacrifice we made, he had silently multiplied, and I had been blissfully unaware. In his letter, Robert explained he had kept it all a secret because he didn't want me to fret about money, nor did he want Angela to know our true financial standing. "You know our daughter, Antonia," he'd written. "If she knew we had so much, her attitude would undoubtedly change. I wanted her to love us for who we are, not what we possess." What bitter irony! Our daughter had abandoned us, believing we had nothing, when in reality we had everything. That night, sleep eluded me. I paced the house, touching old furniture and knickknacks Angela had always dismissed as outdated. I gazed at the family photos, especially one of her at 5, perched on Robert's lap, laughing. Where had that sweet little girl gone? When had she become so calculating, so cold? The next morning, early, the phone rang. It was Angela again. Her voice was different, softer, but I had learned to distrust such shifts in tone. "Mom, how are you? I wanted to tell you we've already transferred the money from the house and the car. We deposited your share into your account. It's not much, but it'll help you for a few months while you look for something smaller." "My share?" I asked, my voice carefully neutral. "Yes, Mom. We weren't going to leave you with nothing, of course. We gave you 30%. That's fair, right? We need the money for our investment in Europe. Edward has an incredible business opportunity there. 30% of my own things. How generous, I thought. I see. Honey, and when do you leave?" "This afternoon. Our bags are already packed. We'll be gone for at least 6 months. Maybe more if the business thrives. But don't worry, Mom. When we return, we'll help you find a small apartment. Something that fits your needs. Fits my needs." As if she had any idea what my needs were. "Okay, Angela, have a safe trip." "Oh, Mom. I knew you'd understand. You've always been so compassionate. We love you so much." And she hung up. I stood there, phone in hand. For the first time in months, I laughed. A deep, unrestrained laugh, unlike any I'd uttered since Robert died. The situation was utterly absurd, truly comical. My daughter had robbed me, evicted me from my own home, addressed me with insufferable condescension, all to finance a European escapade that would likely prove disastrous. But what stung most wasn't the money. It was the sheer ease with which she had discarded me. 45 years of my life dedicated to her, of sacrifice, of unconditional love, erased in a 2-minute phone call. That was the true wound. I checked my bank account online. Indeed, they had deposited an amount that likely seemed generous to them, but to me, it was a cruel joke. They had sold the beach house for far less than its true value, undoubtedly desperate for quick cash. Robert's truck, too, had been sold for a pittance. That afternoon, from my window, I watched Angela and Edward load their suitcases into a cab. He struggled with 2 enormous bags. She carried a very expensive-looking carry-on. I watched them laugh, kiss, and plan. They looked like 2 teenagers giddy for an adventure. They never glanced toward my window, never waved goodbye. As the cab pulled away, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea, Robert's documents spread across the table. Decisions had to be made. I could call a lawyer, reclaim my properties, and demand everything they had taken. But something told me there was a better way, a more profound lesson to impart. I called Mr. Peterson, the lawyer who had handled Robert's affairs. He'd attended the funeral, offered condolences, and told me to call if I ever needed anything. Well, now I needed him. "Mrs. Brooks, it's good to hear from you. How are you?" "I'm doing well, Mr. Peterson. I need to see you urgently. I found some documents from Robert that I don't quite understand. Of course. You can come to my office tomorrow morning. I'll be there. That night, for the first time in months, I slept soundly. I dreamed of Robert. He was in his favorite chair, reading the newspaper, just as every morning. When he saw me, he smiled and said, "It's about time, my love. It's about time you stood up for yourself." I awoke with a strange sensation. Not happiness, but not the pervasive sadness of months past either. It was a potent surge of determination. For the first time since Robert's death, I had a clear purpose. I was going to reclaim what was mine, but not in the way Angela expected. The next morning, I dressed with more care than usual. I chose my wine-colored dress, the one Robert always said made me look elegant. I styled my hair and applied a touch of makeup. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I hadn't recognized in a long time, a strong woman. Mr. Peterson's office was downtown, in an old but elegant building with marble floors and large windows. He greeted me with a warm smile, but when I presented the documents, his expression transformed. "Mrs. Brooks, this is far more than I ever imagined." Robert was a remarkably shrewd man. "According to these papers, you are the owner of—" "I know, Mr. Peterson. I've reviewed them. What I need to know is my legal recourse." Mr. Peterson explained that everything was in order, the documents legitimate, and I was indeed the rightful owner of all those properties. He also confirmed a suspicion. The sale of the beach house was illegal, as Angela had no right to sell it. "We can reclaim the house immediately, Mrs. Brooks, and we can also proceed with legal action against your daughter for fraud." "No, Mr. Peterson. I don't want to pursue legal action. I intend to handle this differently. I want everything to remain a secret for now." He regarded me with curiosity but nodded. "Of course. You are my client. What do you require?" "I need you to discreetly retrieve the beach house, take all necessary steps to nullify that fraudulent sale, and help me gain direct control of all my properties, especially the building where my daughter lives." "I understand. It will be a process taking a few weeks, but it's entirely feasible." "Perfect. And Mr. Peterson, I need no one to know I am behind any of this, at least for now." As I left his office, I felt as if I'd awakened from a long dream. I walked through the downtown streets, observing people, buildings, life proceeding as normal. But for me, everything had shifted. I had a plan. The following weeks were the most surreal of my life. Officially, I was a destitute widow abandoned by her daughter. In secret, however, I was a wealthy woman silently orchestrating the recovery of my assets. Mr. Peterson worked efficiently, calling every few days with updates. I decided to remain in my house for the time being. It was mine, after all, though Angela likely envisioned me confined to a single room. Each morning, I'd wake, have breakfast at the same table Robert and I had shared for decades, then take a walk in the neighborhood. Neighbors greeted me with that familiar blend of pity and curiosity reserved for recent widows. Aurora, my lifelong neighbor, approached me one afternoon while I was watering the front garden. "Antonia, dear, is it true Angela went to Europe and left you all alone?" "Yes, Aurora. She went with Edward. They have business plans over there. And how are you going to manage, sweetie? We all know Robert didn't leave much money." "If you only knew," I thought. "Don't worry, Aurora. I'll be fine. Do you need anything? I can bring you food, help with groceries." "You're very kind, but I'm truly fine." Aurora looked at me with that expression I knew well, the same one I'd received after the funeral, compassion laced with a hint of relief that it wasn't her tragedy. "Well, you know where to find me if you need anything." These conversations repeated constantly with the butcher, the baker, the lady at the corner store. Everyone spoke to me in that soft tone reserved for the unfortunate. I would nod, smile, and thank them for their concern. But deep down, a part of me relished this performance. It was like living a double life. Mr. Peterson called one Wednesday morning. "Mrs. Brooks, I have good news. I was able to nullify the sale of the beach house. The buyers were unaware of the fraudulent nature of the sale, so they received their money back without issue. The house is yours again." "Excellent, Mr. Peterson. And the building where Angela lives?" "That one is more complicated. Technically, you've always been the owner through the company, but we need to make some administrative changes to grant you direct control." That should take another 2 weeks. Perfect. Keep me informed. After hanging up, I sat in the kitchen with my coffee, thinking of Angela. She'd been in Europe for 3 weeks, and I'd heard nothing from her. No call, no message, not even a postcard. To her, I had ceased to exist the moment she secured the money she needed. But I knew that was about to change. I decided to visit the beach house. I took the bus to the coast, the same route Robert and I had traveled hundreds of times. The house was exactly as I remembered it. Small, cream-colored, with a porch overlooking the ocean. The temporary occupants had placed potted plants on the steps, but otherwise, everything was unchanged. I sat on the curb across the street and simply gazed at it for an hour. I recalled summer afternoons when Angela was small, running on the beach, building sandcastles. Robert grilling fish on the barbecue while I prepared salads in the kitchen. Angela bringing friends, then boyfriends, then Edward. All those joyful moments she had reduced to a simple commercial transaction. An older gentleman emerged from the house and noticed me. He approached with curiosity. "Are you all right, ma'am?" "Yes, thank you. I'm just reminiscing. I knew the former owners." "Yes, I knew them very well. What a shame what happened. They told us the elderly lady was very sick and needed to sell fast. We thought it was a steal, but it turns out the sale wasn't legal. We had to return the house." "Did you know them personally?" "No. We did everything through intermediaries, but they told us the daughter handled everything because the mother couldn't." What a sad situation. If you only knew how truly sad it was, I thought. Well, I'm glad you didn't lose your money. Yes. Luckily, everything worked out. Although, now we have to look for another house. We really like this one. I left with a heavy heart. It wasn't just the money that wounded me. It was the ease with which Angela had lied about me, fabricating a story of my illness, using my supposed vulnerability to justify her actions. To her, I was not a person with feelings, but an obstacle to be removed. That night, I called Mr. Peterson again. "Mr. Peterson, I need your help with something else. I want Robert's truck back, too." "That will be more difficult, Mrs. Brooks. The truck was in your name, but your daughter possessed a power of attorney that allowed her to sell it. How is that possible?" "Apparently, you signed that power of attorney a few months ago, after your husband's death. Don't you remember? There it was, the moment Angela had begun meticulously planning all of this. I vaguely remembered signing some papers she'd brought, claiming they would streamline the funeral and inheritance arrangements. So disoriented by grief, I had signed without reading. How incredibly naive I had been. "I understand, Mr. Peterson. Is there any way to retrieve it?" "We can try, but it will be more complicated. We would need to prove you signed that power of attorney under deception or coercion." "Let's do it. I want back everything they took from me." Over the next few weeks, I settled into a strange routine. In the mornings, I was the poor widow everyone knew, performing my charade of buying necessities and chatting with neighbors. But in the afternoons, I transformed into a businesswoman. I studied Robert's documents, consulted with Mr. Peterson, and meticulously planned my next moves. I absorbed financial knowledge I never imagined I'd need. Robert, I discovered, had been even more brilliant than I thought. Every investment was carefully calculated. The building where Angela lived, for instance, wasn't just profitable from rent. It was in an area rapidly appreciating in value. I also learned that Edward, Angela's husband, was drowning in debt. He had taken out loans using the apartment they lived in as collateral, oblivious that he wasn't the actual owner. When the banks uncovered this, he would face serious trouble. Mr. Peterson called one Friday with important news. "Mrs. Brooks, all the paperwork is complete. You now have total control of all your properties." I also recovered Robert's truck. The buyer happened to be an acquaintance, and when I explained the situation, he agreed to return it in exchange for a small compensation. "Excellent work, Mr. Peterson. Now, I need you to help me with one more thing. I want you to send a letter to my daughter." "What kind of letter?" "An eviction notice." There was a moment of silence on the line. "Mrs. Brooks, are you sure you want to do this?" "Completely sure." She decided I wasn't important in her life. Now she's going to discover just how important I truly am. "I understand. Do you want me to send it to Europe?" "No. I want you to give it to her when she gets back. I have a feeling that will be very soon. I wasn't wrong. That same afternoon, Aurora rushed to my house, brimming with fresh neighborhood gossip. Antonia, did you know Edward is in trouble with the bank? My brother-in-law, who works there, told me they're investigating some loans he took out using their apartment as collateral, but it turns out the apartment isn't his. Really? Yes. And it seems Angela didn't know anything. They're saying she's going to have to come back from Europe to sort out this mess. What a complicated situation. Yes. And the worst part is Edward apparently lied to her about the business in Europe. There was no business. He just wanted to escape the debts he had here. Perfect. Everything was unfolding precisely as I had anticipated. Angela had trusted Edward, sacrificing her relationship with me for him, and now she was discovering he wasn't the man she imagined. That night, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, gazing at the stars. Robert used to say the stars were the souls of those who had lived full lives, watching over their families from the heavens. If that were true, he was up there, witnessing his plan unfold perfectly. Thank you, my love, I whispered to the sky. Thank you for taking care of me, even after your death. The next day, Mr. Peterson called early. Mrs. Brooks, I have some news. Your daughter just arrived in the country. She's at the airport alone. Alone? Yes. Apparently, Edward remained in Europe. There are rumors they had a very big fight. I see. Did you send the letter? I'm sending it today. She should receive it tomorrow. I hung up, standing in the kitchen, a mix of nervousness and anticipation churning within me. After weeks of silent planning, the moment for the first real move had finally arrived. Angela was about to discover that her mother was far from the defenseless victim she believed. Angela arrived at her apartment on Tuesday night. I knew this because Aurora, who seemed to possess informants throughout the neighborhood, informed me the next day. Antonia, your daughter came back last night. I saw her go in with one suitcase, but she looked terrible, pale, with dark circles under her eyes, as if she'd cried the entire flight. Alone, completely alone. And something strange, Antonia, when the doorman asked her for the keys, she didn't have them. She had to ask the superintendent to let her in with the emergency copy. Interesting. Edward had the keys, meaning he had likely decided not to return. Or perhaps Angela had uncovered something about him and fled. In any case, my daughter was back, and very soon she would receive my little welcome gift. Mr. Peterson called that same afternoon. Mrs. Brooks, the letter was delivered an hour ago. The doorman confirmed your daughter received it in person. Perfect. How long did we give her? 30 days to vacate the apartment, as per legal standards. But Mrs. Brooks, are you truly sure about this? She is your daughter, after all. Mr. Peterson, my daughter kicked me out of my own house with a 2-minute phone call. She sold my possessions without asking. She treated me like garbage. Now, she is going to learn that actions have consequences. I understand. I just wanted to ensure you had considered all the implications. I have considered them, Mr. Peterson. All of them. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, imagining Angela's face as she read the letter. The initial confusion, then disbelief, then panic. She would likely assume it was a mistake, a scam. But when she called to verify, she would discover everything was entirely legal. The next day, as if she had been waiting for my call, the phone rang at 8 in the morning. It was Angela, her voice desperate. Mom, I need to talk to you urgently. Good morning, honey. How was Europe? Mom, I don't have time for that right now. I received a very strange letter yesterday. It says I have to vacate my apartment in 30 days. It must be a mistake, right? Do you know anything about this? An eviction notice? How strange. From whom? From a company I've never heard of. It's called Wait, let me find the letter. Robert Investments Incorporated. Do you know this company? Robert had used his own name for the company. How poetic. No, honey, I've never heard that name. Are you sure the letter is legitimate? That's what I want to find out. Mom, I need you to help me. I don't know what to do. Edward left me in Europe. He ran off with another woman, and now I come back to this. I don't understand what's happening. There was the confirmation. Edward had abandoned her, likely when the money ran out or when he realized the legal problems back home were more severe than he thought. Poor Angela. She had sacrificed her family for a worthless man. I'm so sorry, honey. Where are you now? I'm in the apartment, but I don't know for how long. Mom, can I come see you? I need to. I need to talk to someone. I don't have anyone else. The irony was exquisite. Now that she was left without the man for whom she had abandoned me, she remembered she had a mother. Of course, honey. Come over whenever you want. I'm on my way. I hung up the phone and looked at myself in the mirror. I needed to be perfect for this performance. I put on my most conservative gray dress, tied my hair in a simple bun, and practiced my expression of a worried but resigned mother. When Angela arrived, she would see exactly what she expected to see. A poor, vulnerable widow abandoned by her own daughter. Angela arrived an hour later. When I opened the door, I was struck by her deteriorated appearance. She had lost weight, bore deep circles under her eyes, and her expensive clothes were wrinkled and unkempt. Her eyes were red from crying. "Mom," she said, and for a moment I thought she would hug me, but she stopped, as if suddenly recalling how things had ended between us. "Come in, honey. Do you want some coffee?" "Yes, please." We sat in the kitchen, at the same table where I had read Robert's documents weeks ago. Angela looked small in that chair, lost, just as she had as a child when she came to me with her school troubles. "Mom, I'm so sorry for the way I left. I know I didn't treat you well. It's in the past, honey." "No, it's not. I treated you badly. I said horrible things, and now..." Her voice broke. "Now I have no one. What happened with Edward? He left with a 25-year-old hotel waitress in Paris. It turns out there was never any business in Europe. It was all a lie. He just wanted to escape the debts he had here and use the money from the sale of your house to fund his adventure." "All the debts?" "Yes, Mom. So many debts. It seems he had been taking out loans for years, using the apartment we lived in as collateral. But now I find out he wasn't the owner of the apartment. How is that possible? Here was my opening." "I don't know, honey. Property matters are very complicated. The problem is that now the banks are coming after me for his debts. They say since we were married, I'm also responsible. And on top of that, this eviction notice. Mom, I don't know what to do. I don't have money. I don't have a job. I don't have anywhere to live." She began to cry, genuine tears of desperation. For a moment, my mother's heart softened. I wanted to hug her, console her, tell her everything would be okay. But then I remembered the coldness in her voice when she called me from the doctor's office, the ease with which she had discarded me, the way she had spoken to me as if I were a burden. "Did you talk to a lawyer about the letter?" "I don't have money for a lawyer, Mom. We spent all the money in Europe. Edward took what little was left when he ran off with that woman. So what are you going to do?" "I don't know. I thought maybe I could stay with you for a while, just until I find a job and can get a small place to live." There it was, the question I had been waiting for. After kicking me out of my own house, selling my possessions, treating me like garbage, she now wanted me to rescue her. She wanted the poor widow she had created to save her from the consequences of her own actions. "Of course, honey, this will always be your home." Angela looked at me with surprise, as if she hadn't expected it to be so easy. "Really, Mom, after everything that happened? You are my daughter, Angela. That will never change." She stood, and this time she hugged me. It was a desperate embrace, like someone drowning clinging to the only thing they could find. I hugged her back, too, but not with the unconditional love from before. Now there was calculation in my embrace. Strategy. "Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll find a job soon. I won't be a burden. Don't worry about that now. Rest, recover, and then we'll see what your options are." Angela left that afternoon to retrieve some belongings from her apartment. I stayed in the kitchen, marveling at how smoothly it had gone. She had come to me exactly as planned, broken, desperate, without options. And best of all, she suspected nothing. To her, I was still a poor, abandoned mother needing her compassion. But this was only the first part of my plan. Having her live with me would provide the perfect opportunity for the next phase. I would let her settle in, feel safe, believe she had found refuge in my house. And then, when she least expected it, I would teach her the profound difference between being poor by choice and being poor by consequence. That night, I called Mr. Peterson. "Mr. Peterson, I need you to do something else for me. Tell me, Mrs. Brooks. I want you to investigate Edward's debts. I need to know exactly how much he owes to whom, and what legal options I have to separate them from my daughter. That will take time, but it's feasible. Perfect. And Mr. Peterson, I want you to keep this an absolute secret. No one can know I am behind this investigation. Of course, Mrs. Brooks. May I ask what your final plan is? My plan, Mr. Peterson, is very simple. I'm going to save my daughter, but first, she has to understand what it truly means to hit rock bottom. When I hung up, I poured myself a glass of the wine Robert had been saving for special occasions. It had been a long time since I'd had a special occasion quite like this one. The game had begun, and for the first time in months, I held all the good cards. Angela moved into my house the next day. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a cardboard box, all that remained of her previous life. I watched her unpack in her old room, the same one she had slept in during her teenage years, and I could see the humiliation in every movement. She had gone from living in a luxury condo to taking refuge in her childhood bedroom. "Mom, I found this in the apartment," she said, showing me a manila envelope. "It was among Edward's things. It has your name on it." It was another one of Robert's envelopes. My heart quickened, but I maintained my composure. "My name? How strange. Yes, let me see." She showed me the envelope. Indeed, it bore my name in Robert's handwriting, but this one was smaller, newer, different from the one in my dresser. "Maybe Edward found it among Dad's things when he died and forgot to give it to me," Angela suggested. "It's possible. May I open it?" I opened the envelope in her presence. Inside were a short letter and a small key. The letter read, "Antonia, if you are reading this after having received the main envelope, it means our daughter is going through a difficult time. This key opens a safety deposit box at the Central Bank downtown branch. The number is 247. There is something there that can help you help her, but use it wisely. With eternal love, Robert." Angela read the letter over my shoulder. A safety deposit box. Dad had a safety deposit box. I had no idea. I didn't either. I lied. Your father never told me about this. Do you think we should go see what's in there? I don't know, honey. Maybe it's better to leave things as they are. But, Mom, maybe there's something important in there. Documents, or I don't know, maybe something valuable that can help us. The desperation in her voice was palpable. Angela was clinging to any possibility of finding a way out of her predicament, and I was going to let her cling a little longer before revealing the complete reality. "Okay," I said after a calculated pause. "We can go tomorrow." That night, Angela and I had dinner together for the first time in months. She had cooked, attempting to be useful, but the food tasted of guilt and desperation. She recounted more details of her time in Europe, each story worse than the last. "Edward lied about everything, Mom. Not just the business, but the debts, too. I thought he only owed a little, but it turns out he owes over $100,000. And the worst part is he used my name for some of the loans without my knowledge. How is that possible? He forged my signature. When I married him, I gave him some documents to handle our joint banking. I never thought he'd use them for this. Do you have any way to prove you didn't know?" "I don't know. It's all so complicated. The banks say that since we were married, I'm responsible for all his debts anyway. And the divorce. I don't even know where Edward is now. He just disappeared. His phone is disconnected. He doesn't answer emails. Nothing. It's as if he vanished. Perfect. Edward had fled like the rat he had always been, leaving Angela to face the consequences of her actions alone. In a way, he had done me a favor. Now, my daughter was experiencing the precise betrayal I had felt when he abandoned me. "I'm so sorry, honey. I didn't know things were so bad." "I didn't either, Mom. I thought Edward loved me, that we were going to build something together, but it turns out I was just an easy way for him to get money and documents." Angela began to cry again. How could I have been so stupid? How did I not realize who he really was? It was tempting to tell her I had seen the signs from the beginning, that I had tried to warn her Edward never seemed trustworthy. But that would have shattered my facade as a compassionate and vulnerable mother. Love can be blinding sometimes, honey. Don't blame yourself. But, Mom, I didn't just ruin my life. I ruined yours, too. I treated you horribly. I took your house, your truck, your things, all to give to a man who abandoned me at the first opportunity. Now we're two poor women trying to survive because of me. It's in the past, Angela. We'll be okay. No, it's not. Now we're both in trouble because of my mistakes. You lost everything Dad left you, and I lost my marriage and my future. We're two poor women trying to survive. If she only knew, I thought, that at this very moment I have more money than she could possibly imagine, that I am the owner of the building where she lived, that I could solve all her problems with a single phone call. But it wasn't time yet. The next day, we went to the bank. Angela was nervous, yet hopeful. I maintained my act as a confused widow who understood little about finance. The bank employee led us to the safety deposit boxes, verified my ID, and opened box number 247. Inside were jewels, many jewels, rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings. I recognized some pieces as heirlooms from Robert's family. Others were entirely new to me. There was also a letter explaining the origin and approximate value of each piece. Angela gasped. "Mom, this must be worth a fortune." "You think so?" "Yes. Look at this emerald, this pearl necklace. Mom, Dad saved a treasure here." According to Robert's letter, the jewels were worth approximately $200,000. It was a significant amount, but it was nothing compared to the rest of my assets. It was like finding a few coins under the sofa when you have $1 million in the bank. "What do we do with this, Mom?" "I don't know, honey. They're family memories. But, Mom, we could sell some of the pieces. With this money, you could get your beach house back, and I could pay off some of Edward's debts." There it was again. Even when she discovered something valuable, Angela's first thought was how to use it to solve the problems Edward had created. She hadn't learned a thing yet. "Are you sure you want to use your father's inheritance to pay Edward's debts?" "What other option do I have, Mom? If I don't pay something soon, the banks are going to foreclose on everything I have. And technically, I don't own anything. Everything was in Edward's name. Think carefully, honey. Once you sell these jewels, you won't be able to get them back." "I know, but what else can I do? I can't get a job with all these legal claims pending. No employer is going to want to hire someone with so many legal problems." We took the jewels home. Angela spread them out on the kitchen table and examined them one by one, calculating which ones she could sell and which she might keep. It was painful to watch her reduce decades of family history to numbers on a spreadsheet. "Mom, I think I can get $180,000 for the jewels," she told me one afternoon, counting the bills on the kitchen table. "It's less than I expected, but it's enough to pay off the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice. If I don't pay something soon, they'll seize everything. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have some kind of legal connection to the properties." How utterly ironic the situation was. Angela was worried about losing a house that I owned, paying the debts of a man who had abandoned her with money from jewels that had belonged to the same man who had created the fortune that could save her. And how are you going to decide which debts to pay first? I talked to a free financial advisor at the bank. She told me to prioritize the debts that have real collateral because those are the ones that can affect property or lead to immediate foreclosure. Angela had matured significantly in these few weeks. The woman who had sold my belongings without consulting me was now carefully investigating every financial decision. The suffering had made her more responsible, but also more fragile. That night, as she was organizing the debt documents on the table, I received a call from Mr. Peterson. "Mrs. Brooks, I have a full report on Edward's debts. The situation is worse than I thought." "How much worse?" "He owes over $200,000 to several banks and also has debts with private lenders. What's more concerning is that he used falsified documents with your daughter's signature for some of these loans. That means Angela is legally responsible. It's complicated. If we can prove she didn't know, we might be able to get her out of some of the debts. But it's going to be a long and expensive process." "How expensive?" "For a good lawyer specializing in these types of cases, probably $50,000. And there's no guarantee of success." "I understand. And what if she just pays the debts?" "If she has the money, that would be the fastest solution, but I doubt she has access to that amount. Mr. Peterson, I want you to prepare all the necessary documents to get my daughter out of these debts, but don't tell her anything yet." "You're going to pay, Mrs. Brooks?" "I'm going to do whatever is necessary to protect my daughter, but this has to be handled in a very specific way." When I hung up, I found Angela in the living room, looking at the jewels with a sad expression. She looked lost, like a child who had broken her favorite toy and didn't know how to fix it. "What are you thinking about, honey?" "About Dad. About how disappointed he would be in me if he could see what I did with my life. Your father loved you very much, Angela. He would understand." "No, Mom. He taught me to be responsible, to value family, not to be selfish. And I did the exact opposite. I abandoned my mother for a man who turned out to be a liar. I sold my family's memories for money. I ruined everything he built." For the first time since her return, I heard genuine regret in her voice. It wasn't just lamenting the consequences of her actions, but a true acknowledgement that she had done something morally wrong. "People make mistakes, honey. The important thing is to learn from them." "But how do I learn from this, Mom? How do I fix the damage I've done?" There was the question I had been waiting for. Angela was finally ready to face the truth about her actions and their consequences. But it wasn't yet time to reveal my final card. First, I had to let her hit rock bottom completely. The next few days were crucial for my plan. Angela decided to sell most of the jewels, keeping only the engagement ring Robert had given me and a small necklace that had belonged to her grandmother. I watched her prepare to go to the jewelry stores, research prices, and negotiate with buyers. It was painful to watch her reduce decades of family history to commercial transactions, but it was necessary for her to understand the real weight of her decisions. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Angela struggle with decisions she never had to make: how to stretch money for food, how to negotiate with creditors, how to look for a job when your credit history is ruined. It was a cruel but necessary education. "Mom, I went to 3 job interviews today," she told me one evening, coming home with swollen feet and a tired face. 2 of them told me they can't hire me because of the pending legal problems. The third one offered me a part-time job cleaning offices at night. "Are you going to take it?" "I have no choice. It pays very little, but it's better than nothing, and I can work at night so I can keep looking for something better during the day." Seeing my daughter, who had lived a comfortable life for over 40 years, preparing to clean offices at night, broke my heart. But it also filled me with pride. She was finally facing reality without expecting someone else to solve her problems. "Are you sure you can handle so much physical work?" "I'll have to learn. I can't keep being a burden to you, Mom. It's bad enough that you're letting me live here for free." "This is your home, Angela." "No, Mom. This is your home, and I'm here because of your generosity, but I'm not going to take advantage of it forever." One night, while Angela was on her first cleaning shift, Aurora came to visit. She sat in the kitchen with me, drinking tea and looking at the family photos on the walls. "Antonia, I have to ask you something. Did you know Angela was going to come back in these conditions?" "What do you mean?" "Well, when she left, she seemed so sure of herself, so arrogant. She talked about the great life she was going to have in Europe, about how successful Edward was. And now she's back, completely broken, working a cleaning job, living with you again." "Life takes many turns, Aurora." "Yes, but there's something else. I've been watching Angela these days, and she looks different. Not just sad, but humble, as if she learned something important." Aurora had always been very perceptive. "What do you think she learned?" "I think she learned the value of the things she had taken for granted, like having a mother who loves her unconditionally." "Maybe. Aurora, can I tell you something? When Angela left and treated you so badly, many of us thought you would never forgive her. But here you are, taking care of her again, giving her a home when she has nowhere to go." "She's my daughter, Aurora." "Yes, but not every mother would do what you're doing, especially after being treated the way you were treated. If Aurora only knew the complete truth, that I had the power to solve all of Angela's problems, but was choosing to let her suffer a little longer, so she would learn the full lesson." "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" "I think you're doing what a good mother would do, but I also think Angela needs to fully understand what she lost when she abandoned you." "What do you mean?" "I think she needs to value you not just as the mother who rescues her when she's in trouble, but as the strong woman who built a stable life for 45 years. She needs to respect you, not just need you." Aurora had hit the nail on the head. That was exactly the point of my entire plan. I didn't want Angela to come back to me out of desperation. I wanted her to come back out of genuine respect and mature love. And how do you think that can happen? I think it's already happening. I've seen her these past few days, Antonia. The way she talks to you now is completely different. She's no longer the daughter who gives you orders or treats you like a burden. Now she's a grown woman who is genuinely grateful to have a mother like you. That night when Angela returned from her job, I saw her arrive tired, but with a new dignity. She had earned those few dollars with her own effort, and that meant something to her. How was your first day? Hard, but not as bad as I thought. The other ladies who worked there helped me a lot. One of them, Mrs. Johnson, taught me tricks to clean more efficiently. Mrs. Johnson? Yes. She's 60 years old and has been cleaning offices for 20 years. She told me she started after her husband left her with 3 small children. She says it's not the job she dreamed of, but that it gave her independence and dignity. She sounds like a wise woman. She is. She said something that made me think a lot. She told me there are 2 types of people who end up doing this job. The ones who are there because they never had opportunities, and the ones who are there because they ruined the opportunities they did have. She asked me which group I was in. And what did you tell her? I told her the truth, that I had all the opportunities in the world, a family that loved me, a stable home, an inheritance, and that I ruined it all by following a worthless man. What did she say? She laughed and said, "Well, honey, then at least you know exactly why you're here. That puts you 1 step ahead of most people." Angela poured herself a glass of water and sat with me at the table. "Mom, I want you to know something. These past few weeks have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important." "Why?" "Because I finally understand what really matters. It's not money. It's not living in the most luxurious apartment. It's not impressing people. It's having people who genuinely love you, who are there when everything falls apart." "Angela, no. Let me finish. You have every right to hate me for what I did to you. I abandoned you when you needed me most. I took everything Dad left you. I treated you as if you were a nuisance. And now I'm here again, expecting you to forgive me and take care of me. I already forgave you, honey. But I haven't forgiven myself, and I won't until I prove that I've truly changed, that I've learned from my mistakes." Mr. Peterson called me the next morning. "Mrs. Brooks, I have excellent news. The legal process is almost complete. We can get your daughter out of all of Edward's debts." It was time. After weeks of watching Angela struggle, work, and reflect on her mistakes, the moment had finally arrived to show her that she had never been alone, that she had always had someone quietly watching over her. "Mr. Peterson, I want you to organize a meeting. It's time for my daughter to know the whole truth." Mr. Peterson arranged the meeting for Friday morning at his office. I told Angela that I had made an appointment with a lawyer who could help her with her legal problems, but I didn't explain the details. She agreed to come, although she was nervous about the cost of the consultation. "Mom, I don't have money to pay a lawyer. I barely have enough to cover basic expenses. Don't worry about that now, honey. Let's just hear what he has to say." We arrived at Mr. Peterson's office on time. Angela had dressed in her best clothes, which now looked a little big on her thinner body. She was nervous, wringing her hands, expecting another piece of bad news on her endless list of problems. Mr. Peterson greeted us with his usual professional smile. "Mrs. Brooks, Miss Brooks, thank you for coming." "Thank you for seeing us," Angela replied. "Although I should warn you that my financial situation is very complicated, and I probably can't afford high fees." "That's exactly what we're going to talk about," Mr. Peterson said, exchanging a look with me. "But first, I need you to review these documents." Mr. Peterson handed Angela a thick folder. She opened it and began to read, her expression gradually changing from confusion to surprise. "I don't understand. These documents say that Edward forged my signature, that there is evidence of fraud, that I am not responsible for the debts." "That's right. We have been investigating your case for the past few weeks. We found enough evidence to prove that you were a victim of identity fraud. But how is that possible? Who paid for this investigation? I don't have money for this." Mr. Peterson looked at me. It was my moment. "Angela, there's something I need to tell you." "What, Mom?" I took a deep breath. After weeks of acting, I was finally going to reveal the truth. "Your father left me more than you knew. Much more." "What do you mean, Mr. Peterson?" "Show her the other documents." Mr. Peterson took out a second folder and handed it to Angela. This time, the documents were the property deeds, the bank statements, the investment certificates, the entire fortune Robert had built in secret. Angela read in silence for several minutes. Her face cycled through a complete range of emotions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally comprehension. "Mom, this says you are the owner of the building where I lived?" "Yes." "And that you have other properties, bank accounts, investments?" "Yes." "This means that when I sold the beach house, it was my house and the sale was fraudulent. I already got it back." Angela stared at the papers, trying to process the information. "How long have you known this?" "Since the day you called me from the doctor's office." "You knew all this when I came back from Europe asking for help?" "Yes." "You knew you could solve all my problems when you saw me crying every night?" "Yes." There was a long, tense silence. Angela closed the folders and looked directly into my eyes. "Why, Mom? Why did you let me suffer when you could have helped me?" This was the question I had been waiting for weeks. "Because you needed to learn something you couldn't learn any other way." "What?" "You needed to learn the value of the things you had lost. The value of family, of respect, of responsibility. When you abandoned me, it wasn't just money you took from me. It was dignity. It was love. It was trust." Angela started to cry, but they weren't tears of self-pity like the ones she had shed during these weeks. They were tears of deep understanding. "I abandoned you when you needed me most." "Yes." "I treated you like garbage." "Yes." "And you saved me anyway." "Yes, but not in the way you expected. I didn't save you by giving you money so you could keep making the same mistakes. I saved you by letting you hit rock bottom so you could learn to save yourself." Mr. Peterson discreetly intervened. "Miss Brooks, your mother has paid all the legal expenses to free you from Edward's debts. She has also recovered all the properties that were sold fraudulently. You are completely free of legal problems. And the cleaning job I got? You can quit if you want," I said. "But I hope you don't." "Why?" "Because that job is teaching you something you never learned when everything was easy. It's teaching you the value of your own effort, the dignity of honest work, the importance of valuing every dollar you earn." Angela wiped her tears and looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't the look of a daughter who needs her mother, but the look of a grown woman who respects another woman. "Do you forgive me, Mom?" "I forgave you a long time ago, honey. The question is, can you forgive yourself?" "I don't know if I can. I did unforgivable things." "People make mistakes, Angela. The important thing is what we do after we recognize those mistakes." Mr. Peterson left us alone in his office for a few minutes. Angela and I sat in silence, processing everything that had happened. "Mom, I want you to know something. Even if you didn't have all this money, even if you were really the poor widow I thought you were, I would have learned the same lesson." "What lesson?" "That there is nothing more valuable than having someone who loves you unconditionally. During these past few weeks, the only thing that kept me sane was knowing I had a home with you. That no matter how much I had ruined my life, you were still my mother. That will never change, Angela. I know, but I also know that I can never take that love for granted again. I have to earn it every day, with respect, with gratitude, with actions, not just words." We left Mr. Peterson's office with a completely new relationship. We were no longer mother and daughter united by blood and habit. We were two grown women who had chosen each other after going through the most difficult test imaginable. The following weeks were about rebuilding, but not the kind Angela expected. Even though she now knew I had enough resources to solve all her problems, she decided to keep her night cleaning job. "Mom, I need to finish what I started," she told me one afternoon as she was getting ready for work. "I can't just go back to a comfortable life as if nothing happened." "Are you sure? You don't have to punish yourself forever." "It's not a punishment. It's a way of remembering who I was and who I want to be now." I watched her put on her work uniform, something unthinkable a few months ago when she lived in the luxury condo with Edward. But there was something different in her posture, in the way she moved. She was no longer the broken woman who had arrived crying at my door. She was someone who had found dignity in honest work. Aurora came to visit me that afternoon, as she had done every few days since Angela had returned. "Antonia, there are some very strange rumors going around the neighborhood." "What kind of rumors?" "People are saying that you're not as poor as we all thought. Someone saw Angela leaving a very elegant lawyer's office downtown, And then they saw her paying off all her debts at the bank. People talk a lot, Aurora. Yes, but they're also saying you got your beach house back, and that somehow you managed to solve all of Angela's legal problems. That costs a lot of money, Antonia. Aurora knew me too well to fool her for long. What do you want to know exactly? I want to know if my friend of 40 years has been lying to me about her situation. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat across from her. It was time to be honest with someone else. Robert left me more than anyone knew, Aurora. Much more. How much more? Enough so that Angela and I never have to worry about money again. Aurora was silent for a moment, processing the information. And why did you pretend to be poor all these months? Because I needed Angela to learn something she couldn't learn any other way. I told her the whole story. Angela's cruel phone call, my plan of silent revenge, the weeks of watching her hit rock bottom, and finally, the revelation in Mr. Peterson's office. Antonia, that is brilliant and terrible at the same time. Terrible. Yes, because you let your own daughter suffer when you could have helped her immediately. But also brilliant, because I understand why you did it. You do. Yes. Angela needed to learn the value of the things she had lost. If you had simply given her money to solve her problems, she would have learned that there's always someone who will rescue her from the consequences of her bad decisions. Exactly. But Antonia, didn't it hurt you to see her suffer? Every day, every night, I saw her crying. Every morning, I saw her get up to go to work tired and defeated. But I knew that if I rescued her too soon, she wouldn't have learned the full lesson. And do you think she learned it? Look for yourself. Angela knows that she now has access to enough money to live comfortably, but she chose to keep her job. She knows she can move to a better place, but she decided to stay here with me. She knows she doesn't have to worry about the debts, but she's using her own savings to help other women in similar situations. She's helping other women? Yes. She became friends with the lady she works with and is using some of the money she earned cleaning offices to help a co-worker who is having trouble paying for her son's daycare. Aurora smiled. That's not the Angela who went to Europe. No, she's not. This Angela understands that money is a tool, not a goal. She understands that dignity comes from work and respect, not from material possessions. That night, when Angela returned from work, she found me reading in the living room. Mom, I have to tell you something. Today, Mrs. Johnson asked me if I was the daughter of the rich lady from the north side of town. What did you tell her? I said yes, that you have enough money for me not to have to work. And do you know what she asked me next? She asked me why I was still working. So I explained that it was because I need to prove to myself that I can stand on my own 2 feet. And what did she say? She laughed and said, Honey, that's the difference between being rich and acting rich. Your mom taught you how to be truly rich. Mrs. Johnson is very wise. She is. And she made me understand something important. It's not about the money you have, but about how you use it and how you relate to it. Angela sat down with me on the sofa. Mom, I want you to know that I've made a decision. I'm going to keep living here with you, but not as a daughter who has come back home to her parents. I want to stay here as a grown woman who chooses to share her life with her mother. What's the difference? The difference is that I'm going to pay my share of the expenses. I'm going to contribute to the upkeep of the house, and I'm going to treat this relationship as a partnership between 2 independent women who love and respect each other. Angela, you don't need to. Yes, I do, Mom. I need our relationship to be different from what it was before. Before, I was a daughter who took her mother's love and care for granted. Now I want to be a grown woman who values and takes care of the most important relationship in her life. And your job? I'm going to keep working, but not necessarily cleaning offices forever. I want to go back to school. I want to prepare myself to do something more meaningful with my life. But I want to do it step by step, earning every opportunity. Do you have any idea what you want to study? Yes, I want to study social work. These past few weeks have taught me how many people are going through difficult situations without having anyone to support them. I want to use the resources we have to help other women who are going through what I went through. It was perfect. Angela had not only learned to value what she had, but she had found a way to use her experience for something constructive. And what about Edward? Mr. Peterson told me he was arrested in France for the fraudulent marriage. He's going to be deported soon, but honestly, Mom, I don't care anymore. That part of my life is over. You don't feel any resentment? No. Edward did me a favor without even knowing it. If he hadn't abandoned and betrayed me, I never would have hit rock bottom. And if I had never hit rock bottom, I never would have learned to truly value what I have. That night, for the first time in months, I went to bed completely at peace. My plan had worked perfectly. Angela had not only learned the lessons she needed to learn, but she had emerged from the experience as a stronger, wiser, and more compassionate person. Robert would have been so proud. 6 months later, our life had found a new balance that neither of us could have imagined before. Angela finished her social work studies with excellent grades, and I decided to use some of my resources to establish a foundation to help women in situations of domestic violence and financial abandonment. Mom, the letter from the university arrived. Angela said one morning, coming into the kitchen with an envelope in her hands. I was accepted into the master's program. I start next semester. But Mom, I want you to know I'm going to pay for it with my own savings. I've been saving money for my job at the city. The salary isn't high, but she had learned to live with the essentials and to value every dollar she earned. Are you sure? We can easily afford the master's program. I know, but I need to do it on my own. It's part of who I am now. Aurora came to visit that afternoon, as she had done every Friday for the past few months. She had become a confidant to both of us, watching our transformation with fascination. Antonia, I have to confess something, she said, pouring herself a second cup of tea. At first, I thought you were very cruel to Angela. And what do you think now? Now I think you were the wisest mother I've ever known. Look at your daughter. Really, look at her. It was true. The Angela, who was in the living room, studying for her exams, was completely different from the one who had left for Europe months ago. This Angela had a serenity that came from within, a confidence that was based on her own achievements, not on material possessions. Did you know I saw Angela at the grocery store yesterday buying vegetables for a family she's helping through her job? I hadn't told her. And when I asked her why she was using her own money instead of the government budget, she told me that some things can't be measured in official budgets. That night, Angela and I had dinner on the porch, something that had become a tradition. It was our time to talk about the day, plan for the future, and simply enjoy each other's company. Mom, I received a very strange letter today, she said, cutting her salad. From whom? From Edward. My muscles tensed. Edward? He wrote to you. From where? From prison in France. Apparently, he was sentenced to 2 years for marriage fraud. In the letter, he says he regrets everything he did and wants to ask for my forgiveness. And how do you feel about it? Honestly, I don't feel anything. No anger, no sadness, no desire for revenge. It's as if that part of my life happened decades ago, not months ago. Are you going to write back? No. Not because I hate him, but because there's nothing to say. That Angela who married him no longer exists. This Angela has nothing to talk to him about. I was impressed by the maturity in her voice. The woman sitting across from me had developed an inner strength that came from hitting rock bottom and getting up on her own. Do you know what this whole experience taught me, Mom? What? That true love isn't the one that tells you what you want to hear. True love is the one that teaches you what you need to learn, even when it hurts. It's a difficult lesson to learn, but it's a necessary one. Edward told me what I wanted to hear. He made me feel special. He convinced me that I deserved a life of luxury without effort. You taught me that true wealth comes from hard work, respect, and genuine relationships. That night, after Angela went to her room to study, I sat on the porch alone, looking at the stars and thinking about Robert. I had promised him I would take care of our daughter, and I finally felt I had fulfilled that promise in the right way. I hadn't taken care of her by giving her money when she needed it. I had taken care of her by teaching her to take care of herself. I hadn't saved her by solving her problems. I had saved her by allowing her to learn to solve them on her own. The next day was Sunday, and we had planned to visit the beach house together for the first time since I had gotten it back. Angela hadn't wanted to go before, saying she needed time to process everything that had happened. Are you ready? I asked her as we got into the truck. I think so. The trip was silent but comfortable. When we arrived, Angela stood for a moment in the truck, looking at the house where we had spent so many family summers. It looks exactly the same, she said finally. Some things don't change, but others do. I am not the same person who sold this house. We went in together. The house was clean and tidy, exactly as Robert and I had kept it for years. Angela walked through each room, touching the furniture and looking at the family photos that hung on the walls. Mom, I want to apologize. You already apologized, honey. No, I want to apologize specifically for this house. Not just for selling it, but for reducing all our family memories to a commercial transaction. It's forgiven. This house represents 40 years of family summers, of birthdays, of Christmases. Dad built that porch with his own hands. You planted that garden. I learned to swim at that beach. And I turned it all into money to fund the adventure of a worthless man. She sat on the sofa where Robert used to read on Sunday mornings. Do you know what hurts me the most? What? That when I sold it, I didn't feel anything. It was just another property. Now, being here again, I can feel Dad in every corner. I can hear his laughter, smell his morning coffee, see his reading glasses on the table. He is here, Angela. He has always been here. I know. And I also know that he is proud of how you handled all of this. We spent the whole day at the house, cooking together, cleaning, and fixing small details. It was like a ritual of reconnection, not just with the place, but with the values that place represented. When the sun began to set, we sat on the porch Robert had built, looking at the ocean. Mom, I have a proposal. What is it? I want us to turn this house into a temporary shelter for women who are leaving situations of domestic violence, a place where they can stay while they rebuild their lives. It was the perfect proposal. Robert would have loved the idea that his beach house would serve to help other families. I think that's a beautiful idea, honey. We can use some of the foundation's resources to maintain it, and I can oversee the program through my job. Are you sure you want to turn our family sanctuary into that, Mom? The best sanctuaries are the ones that are shared. Dad always said that a house isn't truly a home until it opens its doors to other people who need love. He was right. Robert had always been generous with our home, inviting relatives, friends, and neighbors who needed a place to stay. We returned home that night with a new project and a completely renewed relationship. We were no longer mother and daughter united by obligation or need. We were two women who had consciously chosen to build a life together based on love, respect, and a common purpose. That night, before falling asleep, I spoke to Robert in silence. We did it, my love. Our daughter finally understood what truly matters. And for the first time since his death, I felt he answered me. I always knew you would. You're both stronger than you think. Justice had arrived not as revenge, but as education, not as punishment, but as transformation. And in the end, we had both gained something much more valuable than money. We had gained an authentic relationship built on a solid foundation that no future crisis could destroy.